The Superblast continues to be one of ASIC's most popular running shoes. Regardless of its price, £200, it's still one of the biggest shoes that ASICs have ever released, and I have been a massive fan of both iterations. I've actually owned both. I was a huge fan of the Superblast 1, and I was an even bigger fan of the Superblast 2, this one here. Now this video isn't about the Superblast 2, as I've spent a lot of time talking about that, but I thought I would make a video talking about some of the fears I have looking at some of the rumours that are coming out about the release of the Superblast 3 going into next year. It's looking like a March 2026 release, and I'll probably end up being one of those people that buys the shoe because I'm a big fan of the first two. But I'm not gonna lie, I am a little bit worried, and it all comes down to the midsole foam. Now obviously it's all just rumours just now, we're not entirely sure exactly what ASIC's plans are for the shoe, but it is looking like it's gonna have that aliphatic TPU foam, the FF Leap foam that was seen in the Tokyo shoes, both the Sky and the Edge, but more notably it was seen in the Ray shoe as the entire midsole setup. Now if you've seen anything about the Ray shoe on Instagram or YouTube, you'll probably see just how soft that midsole foam is, and if you've seen a review online, you've probably seen some of the characteristics that that shoe has. It's a highly responsive, lightweight shoe. It only weighs 129 grams, which sounds fantastic. However, it is very soft and squishy. Now, the reason that this is a concern for somebody like myself is one of the main reasons that I loved this shoe here was the fact that it was quite firm, it was responsive, but it's quite consistent when you're using it. Now, that's a fantastic thing if you're a runner like me. It's not to everybody's preference, and I wonder if that's why ASICs are making some conscious changes to try and grab more people in and get them wearing the Superblast. I have heard a lot of people refer to the Superblast 2 as being quite a blocky ride. I mentioned that in my first video. However, I don't think that this is the right approach in my personal opinion. As for people that really like both the Superblast 1, which the Superblast 1 was even firmer than the Superblast 2, but for those people and the Superblast 2, which I think was a small increment improvement over the 1, but it was still fairly similar as far as its design and feel, it's going to be a big change or shift for them. Like, my fear is that once you soften up that midsole, it's just going to change the characteristics of the shoe. Now, the reason that I love the Superblast 2 is I think it's the perfect long run shoe, particularly if you're doing half marathon or marathon training and you need a shoe that is just quite consistent and you don't have to put too much thought into it while you're running. The good thing about it is it has sidewalls of foam in it, it's quite firm, but it's responsive enough so that you can get a good turnover while using it with the rocker design. Now, they do have another shoe, the Mega Blast. I've compared both shoes in the first video on this channel, so I'm not going to delve too deep into that, but I thought that that shoe was quite an interesting shoe, as it almost came across, to me at least, that ASICS decided to give an answer to the Superblast 2 instead of waiting for another company to do that. So essentially what they're doing is, if you don't like the Superblast 2 and it's not a shoe for you, well, look at this. We have the Mega Blast, a slightly different feeling shoe that offers you very similar characteristics while offering you enough different that it might grab some more people. Personally, I own both shoes and I do slightly different runs in both of them, but I could see how some people treat both shoes the same, do similar types of runs, but they sway more towards the more soft and bouncier feel of the Mega Blast versus the more harsh and firm feel of the Superblast. For me personally, for a long run, I would go more towards the Superblast, but if I wanted something a bit quicker, I would go more towards the Mega Blast. The Superblast 3, however, just seems a bit confusing to me. Now, if we're looking to add the FF Leap foam, a foam that I just don't think has the right characteristics for a Superblast, my fear is it's just going to change the shoe up entirely. Now, obviously, again, this is all just rumours. We don't know exactly what's going to go into the shoe, but it wouldn't surprise me if that was the approach they took. At the end of the day, the Superblast 1 came out with the FF Turbo foam, the original race foam that was in the Sky Pluses, and then when they came out with the Sky Paris, they changed that foam to the FF Turbo Plus, so then they put the FF Turbo Plus into the Superblast 2. It would only then make sense with their new foam, the FF Leap, that they also put that in the Superblast 3, making it consistent across the board. The problem is that FF Leap foam is significantly different to the FF Turbo Plus and the FF Turbo that came before that. As far as their characteristics are concerned. If anybody here ran in the Superblast 1, the feel was fairly similar to the feel that you got in the Superblast 2. I do think that there were slight improvements there to the foam. It's a little bit more forgiving, if you can believe that. If you've never ran in the first one, you might laugh at that, because I see a lot of people online say that the second one is way too firm. It's actually a little bit softer and more forgiving than that first one that we had. But they were quite similar on feel, and a lot of people that loved the first one loved the second one, but I could see a lot of people drifting away from the third one. The other thing I would say is that there's a big chance the ASICs are going to put a bit of FF Leap foam in there, but it's going to be a very small amount, and it's purely going to be down to marketing. See, ASICs, like a lot of companies, have a tendency of putting their more premium foams into some of their shoes, writing it on the side, and it turns out that there's actually very little of that foam in the shoe, and the majority of the midsole ends up just being a different carrier foam. So for example, the Magic Speed 4 famously had the FF Turbo Plus written across the side. Turns out that there was actually just a small puck of that foam in there, and it was mostly FF Blast Plus Eco, which was a significantly less responsive foam in the shoe. They've just done it again with the Sonic Blast. They stuck the FF Turbo Squared foam written across the side, but it turns out that there's actually only a small layer of that foam on the top, and then the bottom layer is the FF Blast Max foam, I believe, that you find in the Nova Blast shoes. Again, not a very responsive foam. So I'm wondering if they're going to do the same thing with the Superblast 3, and that I can be okay with. I say I can be okay with it, it's still a little bit annoying if they're writing that on the side in order to get you to buy it. What I'm saying is I could see them putting the FF Turbo Plus as the main carrier foam with a little bit of that FF Leap foam, either a puck or a wedge of it, or a top layer with a bottom layer of the FF Turbo Plus. Kind of similar to what they're doing with their race shoes. Now, if they minimize the amount that they're putting in there, I can see it not being a huge problem, just adding a little bit of softness and a little bit more bounce to the shoe. Where it would become a problem is if they put too much of it in. That's when you start to lose some of the key characteristics of the shoe, and that's where I personally would have a problem with it, as I wouldn't want to lose out too much on stability of the shoe and sort of lose that kind of long run potential that you have with the Superblast 2 here. Just kind of that stick the shoe on and go kind of mentality. The other confusing thing about ASICs is they've just got so many foams now. They just introduced a new foam with the FF Turbo Squared, and I'm actually a big fan of that foam. It's an interesting foam. It's a little bit less, for me at least, stable than the FF Turbo Plus, but I far rather use the Mega Blast and that FF Turbo Squared for those quicker and faster run efforts. I said this on the channel before, that shoe is probably the most fun that I've had in a long time running in a running shoe. I don't particularly think that the Superblast 2 is a particularly fun shoe, but I do love the shoe still. It's not like I'm bouncing along while I'm using it. The Mega Blast, however, I do feel like that. So it'd be quite interesting if ASICS do absolutely nothing with that foam going into the Superblast 3. I don't know if they want to just separate both shoes by just never using the turbo squared foam in the Superblast and then waiting to release a Mega Blast 2 where they introduce it there, but they did stick it in the Sonic Blast, so it doesn't look like they're overly precious about using that foam. If you look online and you hear ASICS talk about the FF Turbo Squared, they seem to be very proud of that foam, and they've described that foam as being the most responsive foam that they've ever created. So it'll be interesting to see if they do anything with that foam going into the Superblast 3. Thank you very much for watching. Just a shorter video today, but what do you guys think about the Superblast 3? Will you be picking up a pair when they come out in March? Will you be pre-ordering it? Or are you going to wait to see what people say? I'm probably going to pre-order it, to be honest, as I'm quite excited about the shoe, I can't lie. Even though I'm a bit worried about a few things, I'm still continuing to be excited. I think ASICS are one of the more consistent brands out there, but let me know in the comments, and thank you very much for watching. Feel free to like and all that stuff. Never really know what to do now. I don't know, should I do like one of those things where they do like a thumbnail when they're like, or like scared of a shoe? I don't know. You know those thumbnails where they just like have a shoe there and they're like, for the photo? Because I never have a photo. Or should I just smile? Awkwardly. I'm not good at this.